He is an immensely precise man in many respects. I want to, if I can, just maybe speak about your work from a different perspective. I had the privilege of knowing Rudolf Arnheim, who, in my mind, stands for the modern project in so many ways. And one thing that was very impressive about Rudolf Arnheim is, and obsessive, is that he would never let the biographical be foregrounded. It was just anathema to him. So much so that he would not allow himself to be photographed smiling. And so I thought it might be ironic, maybe perhaps, to not talk about your work at all, but rather talk about this card, which I'm sure you all have seen because there's an enlargement of it below. It's incredible to me that an artist an architect who's presenting a solo exhibition would choose not to put his or her work on the card. And it's highly unusual in this day and age. And it's a very particular image, and it speaks to a very particular mindset, I think. And so I did a little bit of, and I'm not an aviation specialist in any way, shape, or form, so I did a little bit of research on it for the 23rd. And, and this is a B17F. Right? And it's for those of you who didn't read the caption, it's an image from a German manual to instruct German pilots how to approach a B-17F.
Yes.
Right, correct. And it's an incredibly precise image, or at least it purports to be an incredibly precise image. Yeah. And it has the zones of danger demarcated, not as in any sort of scientific way, but really in a way that is materialized. Apropos Lebbeus's comments, the zones are shaded. They have very precise form. It doesn't look like it's accurate, but it's at least very precise. And this was the card, or this was the page that the pilots would use, presumably, to approach a B-17F. One of the interesting things about the B-17F is that it had a zone of, and you probably or maybe don't know this, a zone of incredible vulnerability. And its zone of vulnerability has everything to do with what's not portrayed on this card, which was supposed to protect German pilots. Yes. This is, of course, not an orthogonal projection. It doesn't actually tell you what's going on the other side. It doesn't give you a plan section elevation. It's a collage. It has accurate projections, but it doesn't actually tell you that the nose of the B-17F is unprotected. And it turns out that this plane was a disaster. This was Tony.
By the way, for those who wonder what the hell I'm saying,
your nose. No, your nose. Oh, I see. Yeah. This plane was a disaster. And subsequent to this, they did some surveys, very scientific, the military, and discovered that the head-on approach to a B-17F made the plane completely vulnerable, and they were shot down en masse. And what they needed to add was what's called a chin gun.
Chin gun? Yeah,
it's like a double
yes.
chin.
Yes.
Underneath, it's extremely homely.
Yes.
And it's attached ad hoc to the bottom, and it protected the front nose.
Yes.
And that was the B-17G.
B-17G. I think...
you don't have to defend this.
When you say it's not one of my drawings, it is in a way, because if you change the labeling, it could well be. And it could be a cone of vision rather than a cone of gunfire. And I'm always fascinated. You see, what you haven't realized yet, because you need to read it very thoroughly, there's a lot of intentional misinformation in the strip. To put it another way, there are downright lies. And I'm always fascinated by misapprehended notions of space, physics, and so on. And that there was a belief at one time, I think, that cones of vision coming out of our eyes were actually light projected from our eyes to illuminate the object we're looking at. And I want to talk to Nancy Goldring about this immediately after. And there were many other issues which were patently false. And I rather like the idea of misinforming people, I must say. And I like the idea of the light coming out of the eyes, you see, and instead of being received by the eyes. And if you think of the world like that, then that becomes actually a very appropriate picture.
I wasn't sure where I was going. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very nice to bring it up, I think.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it had something to do with disguising vulnerability.
Yes, but I would say, you've got the card there, I would say, if we just hold it up, that one problem with the image is that the invisible is made visible. But what does that do to the visible? Surely then it in turn should become invisible. It's wrong to have a mere projection as solid looking as the actual solid object. And that's something that one would want to think about. And it could lead to a drawing. In fact, I'm so enthused by that idea. I'll see you all.